So I remember I joined the Army. MMA was a thing of the past for me. But I remember watching the cards, I was still a UFC fan, still a fan of this thing. And I was like, man, I got to get back in there, man. And then I started training again, found a local gym. At the time, it was American Top Team up there. It was an affiliate gym. But then I kind of started training there a little bit. Didn't take any fights yet.
Because you're stationed in New York?
Correct, yeah,
okay.
man. The military stationed me up there in way upstate New York.
Cool.
And so I was like, all right, cool. I was training. Then I remember I had one of my soldiers, like I said, he boxed. And he got me into kind of like the boxing fold. And I did that for a good 2 years, man, just boxing. And I was taking MMA fights too and boxing fights, but with just boxing.
I see.
And next thing I knew, I was like on a 4-fight win streak. And I was like, this is all right. Like, I guess this is what I'm doing.
This is The Prize Fighting Business. I'm your host, Daniel Casado, and today my interview guest is the newly undefeated professional prize fighter, Caleb Hall. Caleb and I actually shot this show the day before he found out he was going to take his pro debut on just 2 days' notice at Colorado Combat Club's third event on October 26th. He ended up winning that fight in a hard-fought decision over 3 rounds. He sat down with me to talk about his martial arts journey and his fight camp preparing for what he thought was his final amateur bout. So let's dive into my conversation with Pound for Pound Fitness and Elevation Fight Team's Caleb Hall. All right. Well, thanks for joining me, Caleb.
No problem.
And so you have some big news. You've got a fight coming up for Sparta, and it's going to be a title contest. Is that right?
Yeah, man. Just this morning, come from practice, my coach let me know. He's like, hey, man, we're fighting for a title on December 14th.
Awesome.
So,
and what weight class will that be?
165.
Cool.
So, which I wish more promotions recognize the 165 weight class.
Yeah.
It's kind of perfect, man. I'm a big 155. I'm a small 170, so,
yeah. A lot of people fall in the, that's kind of like the average male that works out and is pretty built. They fall in between those two weights, but for whatever reason, the UFC doesn't recognize that.
I wish they did. Bellator too, honestly. Yeah. But, yeah.
And you mentioned before this interview that you're fighting a guy that specializes in striking.
Correct. He's a Bang Muay Thai guy. Which excited me, man. I've fought, or rather trained with some Bang Muay Thai guys before, and I don't think Bang Muay Thai works.
You're not sold on it?
No, it doesn't. And for MMA, it doesn't translate.
Sure.
For kickboxing, maybe a little more, but you're not gonna get away with a 10-punch combo.
Yeah.
In an MMA fight, you're getting punched.
Yeah.
So I my coach Jeho and myself, we think the basics works, and angles work, but just getting in and getting out, doing your work and leaving. So. And
your striking coach is Justin Hooten. He's a glory kickboxer, kind of a hybrid style between Muay Thai and kickboxing, very active. And so he's your primary striking coach?
Correct. Yeah, I spend pretty much most of the week striking with him, and then I go to Christian Allen classes as well.
Nice.
When I do those cage rounds or just rounds in general over there at Elevation Fight Team,
cool.
Christian's usually the guy who got my eyes on me.
Nice. So you train with the fight team at Elevation, and then you're also training at Pound for Pound, primarily looking at the striking end of things, but also they have a good team there too.
Correct. Yeah, man. A lot of LT Nelson.
Yeah.
He's over there, man. He's one of my favorite guys to go with.
Cool. I heard he goes hard in practice.
He does. There's been some times when I haven't been able to walk going with him, but it's crazy, man. Just the looks I get over there is they're all really underrated, man.
Yeah.
They're killers. So.
Yeah, and so you're 5-3 as an amateur. You're going into this title fight opportunity with Sparta, 165 pounds, so a catchweight bout. A weight class for Sparta, but catchweight if you look at the UFC weight classes. So, how do you feel going in? What has fight camp been like so far? I know you just found out today, but you were telling me before this that you train full time.
Right. Yeah, man. Thankfully, my wife Linda, she works for an aerospace company, and she pretty much told me, because I was working as a server when I first got out here. Started working nights, security. I've been bouncing job to job. And she's like, hey, she's like, I got it. Go train.
Wow.
And I was like, all right. And I was like, so here we go.
What a vote of confidence, too.
Very much so. She believes in me 100%. So when I don't believe in myself, she believes in me. So it's awesome.
Perfect.
But yeah, man. So for the most part, so it's funny because I was supposed to fight on Sparta's card. I think it was September 8th, I want to say.
Yeah.
It was funny. So I thought I was fighting on October 12th. So I went in 6 weeks prior. I was checking my weight. I was like 187. I was like, perfect. I was like, I got 6 weeks to get this off. It was a kickboxing fight. I was like, cool.
Gotcha.
Let's get back in there, get back into things. It had been like 10 months since I fought.
Cool.
I'm wrapping my hands at practice, and Jay comes up and says, hey, man, you ready? I was like, yeah, man. I was like, I got 6 weeks. I'm feeling good. He's like, what do you mean you got 6 weeks? I was like, what? He's like, your fight's next Friday.
Oh, man.
And I was like, whoa. I was like, I'm 187. The fight was at 170.
Your heart's dropping.
I was like, all right, cool. So I was like, I know how to fight. I was like, I got to get this weight off, man. So I was doing everything to get the weight off. In a week, man, I dropped like 17 pounds.
Damn.
Thankfully, because my roommate, Ryan Charleboy, he's a guy I train with. He's a killer, too. He's got his fight coming up. But he's very good with the diet.
Cool.
And, like, I listened to everything he said, got the weight off. I'm driving to weigh-ins, ready to go, and I get a phone call from Will Hammond from Sparta.
Yeah.
He's like, hey, man, he's like, your guy's not making weight.
Huh.
I was like, what? He's like, he sucked in at like 175. He's like, what are you at? I was 168. I was like, I wanted to fight him. I was like, well, let me call my coach real quick. So I called JJ. He's like, no. Yeah. He's like, you're a smaller guy moving up to fight a guy who didn't make weight.
Yeah, just because you were heavy and cutting the weight doesn't really mean that's your natural weight.
And he was like, let's just get it another time, man.
Cool.
So I was like, all right, cool. It was only a week anyway, so it's not like I put a bunch of work into it. Then I got the call for Fury, and so I started camp for that. It was supposed to be at 55, and then obviously that fell through. And then so right now I'm like sitting at like 180.
Okay.
So it's perfect.
Yeah, nice.
Started camp today, if you will.
Cool.
But I'm always ready. I mean, I feel like as an amateur, but like this is gonna be my last amateur fight.
All right.
I play. When you're a pro, you got to be ready all the time.
Yeah, absolutely.
So I mean, I'm always training. Like I said, I do camps, but as an amateur, you don't, or even as like a guy who's not in the big organizations yet, camps are kind of like it's a loose word.
Yeah,
because
I agree.
You just need to be ready to fight all the time.
Absolutely.
Fight often.
And you're developing all the time.
Exactly.
Yeah. So. Interesting. So, I mean, you just made a beautiful point there about your coach. I mean, essentially saying, hey, don't take this fight. Something that a lot of coaches might not really do. They might just say, hey, take the fight for experience. But in reality, I mean, you know, as a fighter, you have so many miles, you have so many fights that you can take. It is good to be fully prepared for a fight. So recognizing that maybe this wasn't the best opportunity and, you know, a chance where things could go wrong that didn't need to go wrong potentially. I think it's really big that your coach was able to step in and be like, no, let's just wait for a better opportunity.
Right. Which is crazy because that's what I've been missing for my probably 8 years.
It's hard to find, I think.
Like that ear that's like, hey, or that voice rather that's like, hey, don't take it.
When it shows his experience as well as a fighter, he knows what it's like. You know?
Right. So it was
cool.
It's been a blessing to have him for sure. Yeah,
Awesome.
I go to him for everything. He's the kind of a guy who doesn't he won't take any credit for anything.
Sure.
But he's literally like the fighter I was last December is totally different guy now.
Yeah.
So
Nice.
I'm excited to show it.
Cool. Cool. Well, I'm excited. December 14th then.
Yes.
Probably at Jeffco.
I think that's gonna be the venue. Yeah.
Okay. Neat. And so who's gonna be in your corner then? I assume J-Ho and.
J-Ho and Christian Allen.
Cool. So solid corner.
Yeah.
Power corner.
Very powerful. You know, I didn't realize because Christian's kind of underrated jiu-jitsu.
Sure.
But like I've been to his jiu-jitsu classes, and Christian's a wealth of knowledge.
What gym is Christian at?
High altitude martial arts in Aurora.
Yeah.
I do most of my jiu-jitsu with Cody Donovan and Christian Allen. So
nice.
Yeah.
Both guys with great experience too as fighters.
Cool. Yes.
So what does a normal fight camp look like? I know you said the term is generally loose, but you also spoke to the fact that technically it starts today, now that you know you have your title fight, December 14th, but today's 2 weeks to go in October, so you have 6 weeks?
Yeah.
8 weeks? 6 to 8 weeks?
I think it's close. Cool. Somewhere in between there. But yeah, man, so like pretty much what I'll do is I sit down with myself, I analyze the opponent, which me and Jay do, striker, some jiu-jitsu, right? So now I'm looking at, okay, I need to spend some time striking. That's my, I fought 2 wrestlers back to back. So, this is a breath of fresh air for me.
Yeah,
I love to strike. That's kind of what I do. I don't want to be one-dimensional. And they say you need to be well-rounded as an MMA fighter these days. But, I mean, you look at, the champions, you know, you look at Khabib, for example. He's a wrestler.
Right.
He's dominant. You look at Israel. He's a guy who just strikes. So I believe in specialists, man. And
yeah. I think specialization's good. I think you know, there's a balance there, right? You need to be able to handle each situation. Right. But you know, Israel, like you said before the show, also we haven't really seen him tested in jiu-jitsu transitions. What he's very good at is staying on the feet, keeping the fight on the feet. Whether that means it's inside in the clinch and avoiding takedowns that way with his knees, or he's good at actually shucking off the takedowns once they do get deep. We're not seeing him roll around on the ground necessarily. So.
Right. I mean, and even when he did, when Gaslam took him down, he threw that triangle up quick. You know he's training there.
Right.
So, but I do the same thing. You know, I'm probably, like, for example, yesterday was a 3-day for me. I wake up, I do jiu-jitsu in the morning with Cody Donovan. Then I jet right over to pound for pound. Or yesterday was sparring over there at pound for pound.
Cool.
It's also sparring elevation, but I was doing it pound for pound yesterday. Kind of just getting everything together. And then in the evening, I go back to high altitude because they have kind of their striking sparring with guys who they're on a much lower level, but I can learn from everybody.
Yeah.
So I like going
and more looks.
Exactly. And like those guys are usually like they're trying to take your hat off, and but like for me, it helps me stay calm and just kind of like. I don't know. You can learn something from everybody. If it's your first day in martial arts, I can learn something from you.
Well, and it's hard not to get better when you're doing 3 classes a day, too, or 3 trainings a day.
Exactly.
Cool.
In which, diet's got to be right. But I usually eat pretty clean for the most part, but we'll start dialing in. This is like at 65, not 55, so it's not such a dramatic cut.
Yeah. What does your diet normally look like? Like just an average day outside of fight camp?
I try to I wake up in the morning usually, and I'll do like a very small meal of oatmeal, a lot of water. I do like my morning routines like apple cider vinegar, Himalayan pink salt, and water. I don't eat much during the day. I eat just enough what I need, whether it be a banana, or like for example, like maybe some rice cakes with peanut butter before training. But in the evening, I really I eat a lot of chicken, a lot of rice, and a lot of vegetables.
Nice.
That's it. So like pretty much like your basic your diet. It sucks. It's not fun.
So but you're taking a full-time approach to this. So what changes going into camp then? Or like going, I guess through the cut. Because essentially what you're saying is you were 21 pounds over for that last fight. You're closer to like 15 pounds over right now. It's still a significant amount of weight to cut for, a normal person.
Right.
You're used to it. But what do you have to cut out to make your body generate that fat loss or that weight loss?
For me, I do well going low carbs, high fat.
Yeah.
I get a lot of energy from like a lot of the fats that I take in. MCT oil is something I go heavy with. A lot of peanuts, a lot of almonds, a lot of cashews, things like that. And I'll cut the closer we get to the fight, the more carbs I'll just cut out of my diet.
Cool. So keto-esque type diet.
Pretty much, yeah. Not full keto. I'll still wake up every morning and have that bowl of oatmeal.
Right.
Because that single bowl of oatmeal is usually what carries me through the whole day of training.
Sure.
So yeah.
Carbs there.
Exactly.
Nice. Yeah. So what do you want to be about a week out, as far as weight's concerned?
So since this one's at 65, I like being at least like 7'10". Yeah, something like that.
And then water cut the rest?
Yeah, I'll just really, and like last fight, I didn't even touch a sauna. Yeah, wow. I just water loaded the week before, and then like it was all gone. I woke up on weight. Time before that when I fought for Triton, I did have to cut like 3 the day of weigh-ins. So yeah, it just depends. But if I can be like within 7, it's easy work. If I'm over 7 or like if I'm over 10. It's gonna be long. Because, like, my first couple fights were at 145.
I see. Wow.
Yeah. But I was also a 17-year-old kid walking around like 160.
Sure.
Yeah.
Cool. Yeah. So, what is the difference, I guess, between the weight cut the last week versus the rest of the time? Is it really you're just not eating that last week as much and just drinking water? Are you able to keep eating the same amount since you're water loading?
I eat the same things, just like a lot less.
Okay, so you are restricting calories while water loading.
Yes, correct. And when you're drinking like that much water, like if my fight's on a Friday, for example, I'll start water loading on Saturday.
Okay.
And like 2 or 3
gallons. Oh wow,
so
a week before.
Yeah, I just drink a ton of water, flush everything out. And like you don't even want to eat. You're just drinking so much water. You're full. You're like, all right, cool. And like I don't know, for me, like some people are like the weight cut kills them and they want all these foods that they can't have.
Sure.
For me, I'm just like, it's part of the game. It's the price you pay. So for me, it's like I don't even care.
Well, you clearly have discipline if you're sticking to this diet outside of fight camp or just in general. You have this full-time approach to MMA training. And you come from a military background, so I'm sure you developed some of that discipline there.
100%, man. When I joined the military, I was 18.
Cool.
Definitely was undisciplined. But like I was like the military itself teaches you a lot about nutrition and things like that.
Really?
It's a lot more than people think it is these days. There's a lot of like free material, free classes you can take on nutrition and things like that. Because we obviously do a lot of PT.
Right.
But yeah, man, that really helped me get my discipline in check.
How did you develop your diet then? Was the military part of that as well?
Yeah, man. So like for the most part, I'd have to the military's it's a full-time job essentially. You work from 9 to 5 and you go home for the day. So throughout the day, I would you pretty much I had access to a DFAC, which is a dining facility, and they have a lot of healthy options. So I was like, okay, let me as an 18-year-old, I was kind of eating whatever
Sure.
and getting away with it.
Yeah. You can.
But the more like I was like, well, I probably still can get away with it too. I'm only 23, but it's how you feel.
Mm-hmm.
So I was like, okay, so let me start eating healthier. So I started eating a little bit more chicken, a little more rice, things like that. And then I noticed my performance was better, my cardio was better, my endurance was better. I had less inflammation.
Yeah.
And I was like, all right, so now I'm getting into this nutrition thing. I started looking up like certain spices. So, like I don't supplement anything. I think you can get everything from food.
Yeah.
So like things like that, and that's really what piqued my interest. And I was like, cool. And like at the time, I was fighting at like 170.
Okay.
Then when I boxed at 65, so I had to check things even more, like getting tighter for the most part.
So what about the weight cutting method? I mean, you mentioned that your roommate does this pretty well as well,
Right.
doing kind of the calorie restriction idea. But I mean, were you always doing this water loading method, or is this something you picked up recently? How did you decide upon that?
Past 4 fights.
Okay.
Yeah. For like I just kind of like I remember the Dolce Diet was a guy who I was watching, and that was kind of his method, and I was like, okay, if I don't have to touch a sauna, I'm not going to.
Yeah.
But because time before, I think it was back in 2016. I remember I had to cut from 85 to 70 in a week, or it was like 2 weeks, and but I was like, it was terrible.
Yeah.
I remember I was like, I'm not doing this again. I was in the hot tub, I was in and out of the sauna, and I was still over when I went to weigh-ins. I was like 2 pounds over. Where I was at was obviously the 1 pound weight limit, so I had to lose a pound. So I remember I was out there, like I live fairly close to where the weigh-ins were gonna be at.
Right.
So I remember I got to throw my sauna suit, and I was just jogging, got that pound off, went in there, weighed in. I was dead. I was like, I'm never doing that again.
Oh man. Yeah.
I performed fairly well.
Did you feel it? Do you feel the difference?
Now I do for sure.
Yeah.
Because I used to not care how I felt during training. I was like, I just need to show up on fight night. But now, like, if I have good training, it boosts your confidence.
Absolutely.
Plus, like, just eating healthy, period, is much better for you.
Absolutely.
So, yeah.
Yeah, I know. I mean, I like the approach. And you mentioned that you did 3 practices yesterday, 2 jiu-jitsu and sparring, striking essentially. Right. What does it look like, now that we're in camp, what's it going to look like for the next week, day to day?
So for the most part, I'll do 3 days, probably 3 times a week. Cool. Like, for example, today was a lighter day. I went to do some striking with Jeho this morning. That's got the news. And then tonight I'll be with Christian Allen for striking again. And tomorrow, for example, will be another 3-day. So I'll do jiu-jitsu in the morning. I'll be at pound for pound for sparring at 11, I believe. And then I'll be back again at 7 to do some jiu-jitsu and sparring as well at high altitude.
Cool.
But I mean, I'll base how I feel too. If I feel like, hey, like, let's not go to jiu-jitsu tonight. Not just because I'm saying let's not go, but like my body's like, because I always want to go. But sometimes my body will be like, hey, take a break.
Yeah.
Like, okay, cool. I'll take a break.
Right.
But I do take Saturday and Sunday completely off.
Okay, cool. Mm-hmm. So the 3 days, at least 3 days a week, and then 2 days, or at least 1 a day, the other 2 days, and then rest days, Saturday, Sunday. Do you do anything special for rest? I mean, as far as like cryo or anything like that? Or?
Yeah, actually, I was just doing cryo yesterday.
Nice.
Out there in it's called frost cryotherapy.
Okay.
I used to have cryo when I was in New York. That was the first time I ever got turned on to it. And it was awesome. I was like, this is cool. I don't have to sit in an ice bath for like 20, 30 minutes. I was like, this is cool. So for the most part, cryo, I have a lot of, I don't know what it's called, but it's like you put it on you and like it's like an electric.
Yeah.
And, and I do that a lot. I foam roll.
Kind of stimulates the muscles.
Yes, exactly.
Cool.
I'm religious with foam rolling.
Nice.
I do it all the time. But just not doing anything. I don't even try to think about fighting, really. I'll try to maybe go for a small hike or, hang out with my wife, obviously, and things like that. But I try not to I don't even want to think about fighting.
Yeah.
It's on the weekends. Because Monday, I'm right back at it.
Yeah.
So. Yeah.
How do you use the cryo? Is it something that you just do once a week, or is it after practice specifically?
The best effects for me is between practices.
Okay.
If I can get away with it. As far as time goes.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, man, for example, Monday, we'll do wrestling. No, first practice, it's wrestling. I'll do in between wrestling and my striking class in the evening. And then I feel refreshed and I'm good to go.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, try to do it three times a month.
Yeah.
I think is the best way to get it, benefits, because you have to do it constantly to get the real benefits of it. You can't do it once and I'm good.
Right. So how did you kind of decide on that? I can do 3 practices in a day, 3 times a week, but I definitely want 2 days on the weekend open so that my body's fully recovered. How did you come to that?
Just kind of feeling it out, man. When I first got up here, I was just doing the pro practice only at Elevation. That was it. Mm-hmm. I moved out here in March, didn't know anybody. I was just doing that. And I was like, well, they don't have any pro practice on the weekends. I was like, so I guess I'll just take the weekends off. And that's when it hit me. I was like, and then I started picking up these training sessions throughout the week. and I just kept it like Saturday and Sunday. I just won't do anything.
Nice.
Closer to the fight now, I'm like I may do light drilling on Saturdays maybe.
Okay.
But even then, like I'm super like it's light drilling.
But you felt that it's benefited you so far.
Exactly. So I may not switch it up. I mean, if it's not broke, don't fix it.
Yeah,
but,
yeah, absolutely.
Exactly.
So, going into camp, you're talking about this 3 times a day, 5 days a week. What is the difference then outside of camp? Like, what are you working on outside of camp? Is it more classes, fewer one-on-ones, or what does it look like?
So when you're out, like my opinion, when you're outside of camp is when you get better. You're not getting better getting in camp, getting to the fight. You're just sharpening everything. You're zoning everything in. But outside obviously I took a year off since my last fight, and I've just spent time grappling. I do a lot of grappling.
Cool.
You got to find what you're weak at. Like I think the biggest thing is people are like, I don't need it. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
But for me, like my past 2 fights, like I've had like just been slipping away because of the grappling aspect. So I was like, you know what? I had to get real with myself. And I was like, I need to be grappling more. I hate jiu-jitsu, man. And wrestling. I hate both of it.
Yeah.
There's like some people love it. Like they're hyped to like do jiu-jitsu. I cannot. I hate it. But when I get on the mat, man, I just leave that at the door. I'm open-minded for an hour and a half. I mean, it's an hour and a half of your life.
It's a good attitude.
You know? And then I learn what I can. I'm a type of guy who learns one thing and like for the week.
Sure.
Like,
yeah.
Right, cool. Oh,
Focus.
we just learned we learned how, like I'd really like my jiu-jitsu, like I was pretty like non-existent about a year ago.
Okay.
So, but Cody Donovan, like I said, he's been the guy. He's really just helped me out, man. He's like all the coaches on Elevation are great. But then you can't be like there's so many of them. You can't get that connection with everyone.
Absolutely.
So like I went to several of them, and I was like, I went to Elliot Marshall's jiu-jitsu. I went to Cody's jiu-jitsu. I was like, Cody's the one that clicked with me. I was like, okay, here we go.
Whether it's the way they're teaching or the way they're talking to you, just something clicks.
Right. And for Elliot, his class is huge. I remember I went and I didn't get that one-on-one.
Yeah.
And like I was like, okay. And then he's saying things and I don't know what they are.
Right.
I was like, okay. I was like, I need a smaller room.
Yeah.
And I go to fundamentals classes too.
Good awareness.
Yeah. So like smaller room, Cody's.
Oh, cool. So you are going to group classes. I mean, It's not necessarily I'm not just a fighter going to fight team practice. You're going to general classes, getting looks from everybody.
Yeah. I mean, I'm in there with the soccer moms.
Cool.
And I'm in there with the pro fighters.
That's what's up.
Yeah. I just want to get better, man.
Yeah.
And if you can't be real with yourself and tell yourself what you need to work on, then you're just in the wrong sport. You won't last long.
Yeah.
So
yeah. So what have you been working on over the past year? You mentioned the grappling jiu-jitsu aspect, but like anything specific that you're looking for? Because I mean, just for some context, your last fight, it was a close fight. It was a split decision loss. Arguably, you did most of the damage, but the difference was grappling and a couple takedowns in the latter end of the second round and latter end of the third round that essentially secured it in the judge's eyes. So you've been working on that to shore it up, but I mean, anything else that you're looking at too, or?
Since I met J-Ho, my striking has changed dramatically.
What was your style previously? Because I've seen you throw spinning kicks, spinning back kicks, heel kicks. I can't remember the last time I threw
a spinning kick. It's like that's how like different it is. Like that used to be a thing. Beforehand, I was just kind of doing more of a kind of like a taekwondo, kind of just like that type of style.
I agree. Those types of kicks, at least.
Right. I've always had really good hands. From like obviously a lot of boxing experience. But for the most part, man, like my kicks are like I wasn't even throwing head kicks like probably like 4 months ago.
Wow.
Yeah. So now those are coming together and like I'm just repping like these things over and over and over and over again. So really meant the basics, but I'm taking the basics with what I know and like J-Ho's twist on things and Christian's twist on things. I'm just putting together the style of like myself, I guess. So absolutely. I don't like to like, I take something from everybody. So for me, for like I said, Israel Hassan is a guy I break down, I study, and I watch all the time.
Nice.
But then I'll grab guys like, for example, a guy I look up to on the team is Bojan, for example. He mixes his wrestling in really well. So I look at that. And then I'll look at a guy, his name's Anthony Adams. He trains out there too. And like his style, like the way he uses his reach.
Yeah.
So for me, I'm picking from everybody. And like I'm trying to create a new me.
Right.
So like this at the Caleb you'll see this December 14th, you're going to be like if the guy who I'm fighting is watching my old tape and being like, oh, this is what to expect, like, okay, because it's not the same, man. So I might even shoot. Who knows? So
cool. Yeah. And what does striking practice look like? I mean, you mentioned grappling. Right. You can be, in these smaller classes with Cody Donovan, or you can be rolling with a soccer mom. When it comes to the end of practice. So what does striking look like? I mean, is this like one-on-one time? Is it a mix of classes and one-on-one time?
Thankfully, J-Ho Pound for Pound Fitness is the classes are very small. very concentrated classes. So usually I pair up with somebody and we'll do drills for the first 30 minutes of practice.
Okay.
He doesn't, why I like him, man, is because he doesn't throw, it's not a new thing every day. I've been doing the same thing for like 7 months.
Neat.
Because that's what you get good at, you know? So now, like, that's second nature to me. But like the last 30 usually is incredibly hard conditioning.
Okay.
It's very, it makes you dig deep, man.
Like fight style conditioning?
Fight style conditioning, because J-Ho's perspective on it is you want, like, you can lift and do all these things, man, but you got to, like, checking kicks, getting your shins, body conditioning, things like that. A lot of punches, a lot of kicks, things like that. Things you'll be doing in a fight. You're not going to be like lifting barbells.
So people are beating on your body.
Exactly, man. Cool. Like we'll do for example, like we'll do like ones when like our partner will have shin pads on, but we won't. And they just beat our legs. And then I remember working with Josh Wick, who's a guy I work with, and he was just beating the hell out of my legs, man. I was like, great. This is terrible. A lot of body punches, things like that. But now when I'm sparring, I take a shot and like it's like cool.
Yeah.
Like it's whatever. Like I can keep going. So
yeah. Well, I mean, you spoke again to the fact that you roll with soccer moms, but I mean, a lot of the fight team guys, these are high level professionals that you're getting the real looks with the sparring or even kickboxing practice, like you're speaking to.
Yeah, exactly. I remember the first time I showed up to sparring. It was Justin Gage who was there. And, like all these big names, people I watched, I've heard about, but I never like really met in real life. So I had to keep the starstruck levelness down. Obviously, I was like, I'm here. And I remember they threw me with Neil, and like he kicked my ass, man. It was bad. Like
Neil Magny.
Neil Magny, yeah. I remember my mouthpiece got knocked out. I was trying to grab it. I got kicked. I was like, man, this is terrible. But afterwards, I was like, this is the level I'm at now. Yeah. So I was like, so you better adjust. And the second time they put me in the cage with Gagey, and I was like, there's this like the second sparring week. At the time, he was training for Barboza. And Trevor asked me if I would go. Trevor Whitman asked me if I would go in the cage with him, do a round. I was like, yeah. I was like, I can do that. And like, I went in there, bro. But like, he's the coolest guy ever.
Sure.
Because like, for example, Justin, like, he's not trying to knock your head off in sparring.
Okay.
But he will try to drop you to the body.
Okay.
And I remember I was in there and I was moving. I was doing well. And I was like, okay. I was like, this is the level I'm at. I was like, I'm adjusting. And I was like, I can beat these guys. You know, maybe not in a fight, obviously. You know, Justin Gage is like number 4 in the world. Sure. But I was like, if I'm sparring and doing well with Justin, there's not somebody who's outside of that level that I'm going to get beat by. Right. It's just not going to happen.
Yeah.
And
it's
that's
a
also
confidence booster.
Yeah, definitely, man. Yeah. Like exactly. Like when I'm staring across the cage from this guy, I'm like, I know for example, you're not going to hit as hard. You know what I'm saying? So like, here we go. Yeah, huge confidence booster, man. I'm like, you know, I get to pick the brains of the people. Even those guys who are like on like LFA cards, those guys have a lot. They're like right there.
Oh yeah, absolutely. So, that's right. Yeah, I agree. Right there, one call away.
And I'm like, at the time, I think there may be one. I'm like the youngest guy in the room too, so I'm sitting there like, I want to know from everybody, man. I'm trying to get everyone's experiences. They may not know who I am. They do now. Now that I'm there, but like, there's something I can learn from everybody, man.
Yeah.
So.
And I like that. I mean, I love that how many perspectives you have, how many looks you're getting with the way that you've developed this team around you. So kind of tell me about that. I mean, you mentioned your support network with your wife who lets you to train full time. Right. I mean, that's a huge, financial aspect that a lot of people have to figure out. Right. You're working with Pound for Pound. You're working with Elevation. There's so many pros there between those two teams. What do you do for strength and conditioning? Do you do anything extra beyond Pound for Pound, or do you feel like that kind of fight-specific conditioning takes care of it?
So just recently been working with a guy. His name's Corey Wirtz. He's been helping me out. We've been showing up a little early before striking at Pound for Pound, and we're doing a little bit of like lifting, resistance training, things like that.
Okay.
Like, we just started this like last week. So it's awesome. So like that's I hadn't touched a weight in like over a year.
Really?
So that's gonna help out a little bit. Doing that a couple of times a week. But for me, I think like I thrive off of not lifting. Fight specific conditioning, things like that. So really, I know a lot of the guys on the team go to Landau.
Yeah.
Which is great. I might even check that out someday too.
Cool.
But for now, like where I'm at with all the training sessions, like I just don't feel the need for it.
Yeah.
But you never know. I don't know. I've always had like cardio is my thing. I've always I'm like the same Caleb in round 1 as I am in round 3. I've always had kind of an extra long.
That could be another military thing too. They're always pushing that. Yeah.
I run a lot too.
Oh, so you do? I mean, you put the road work in.
Yeah, I do. Yeah, I guess so. Yeah, so I do a lot of road work. Less sprints, just a lot of like long miles, man.
Cool.
I started like being out here. Like elevation is way obviously higher. It's like I could not breathe when I first got out here, man. So I'll still push myself, as far as I can. Like for example, we did I think it's the Mansu Incline is what it's called.
Yeah, down in Colorado Springs.
That replicated exactly what it feels like when someone's on top of you, holding you down like this, like can't breathe. And I was like, in my head, I was like, man, this is worse than like a hard wrestling practice. So I was like, okay, so I'm gonna do this more often throughout the camp.
Cool,
things like
that.
Man.
Yeah.
I'll tell you about it. Halfway through, man, I stopped. I looked down. I was like, I want to stop.
Looking back's bad too.
I know. Like, I was like, oh, I want to quit so bad, man. I can't breathe.
Yeah.
Like my legs were burning. And I was like, man, I'm like, you can do it, man. But like, I can't catch a deep breath. I was like, this is perfect because this is like third, fourth round in a fight. Yeah. You can't breathe. You know what I'm saying? It's time to like, so I'm like, all right, we got to push through it.
Yeah.
So
cool. So, so you pay. I mean, if you don't mind me asking, is it two separate fees that you have to pay for elevation and pound for pound?
Yeah. So I pay the pro fee for elevation. And then pound for pound, I pay J-Ho.
Cool.
J-Ho, I should be paying him a lot more than he charges, man. He's just a great guy, but he's not like he's the most selfless guy I've ever met.
Yeah. So you'd call him your head coach essentially?
I would, 100%. Man, he looks out for me, man, 100%. Like he's treated me from the day I walked through the door. I'll tell you what, man. Like, and this is how it should be on like elevation.
Mm-hmm.
When I walked into elevation, I felt like I was walking into proving grounds.
Sure.
And when I walked into like I needed that coaches, like the approval of the coaches and things like that. But when I walked into pound for pound for the first time, I felt like family, like off the bat. Like Jay, he didn't look at himself any higher. He didn't look at anybody else in the room any higher than myself, man. He's like, hey, I'm Nate Jay, blah, blah. And like, he's the one who's setting up my fights for me. He comes to me with the opportunity. He's like, hey, man, here, I got this for you. Do you want it?
That was my next question. So you don't even need a manager at this point. J-Ho kind of does that for you.
He's taking care of things for me. I mean, the further I go, like down the line, I'm sure I'll need a manager and things like that. Because obviously J-Ho's got his own career too.
Right.
So but for now, man, he's showing me the fights. He's like, do you want it? I'm like, I'll take it. And he's like, all right, man, I got it.
Cool.
So it's super cool. Yeah.
Anyone else on the team there kind of surrounding you that you feel is integral to your camp? So you're
definitely
training?
My boy Ryan, Charlotte boy. So he actually moved last month. He moved from New York. I was an American Top Team in New York. Beforehand.
Cool.
It was an affiliate gym, kind of a smaller gym. But he was kind of like the wrestling coach. But he was also he was a fighter too. He's an undefeated fighter. He's 6-0 as an amateur. He's making his pro debut coming up here. But he's like, it was weird because like we kind of fell off for a good like 4 or 5 months. He texted me. He's like, hey man, he's like, can I come out try out the team out there or whatever? And I was like, yeah man. I was like, you got a place to stay. So now, so he lives with me.
Cool.
Like I said, he keeps me in check with my diet. I think it's crucial to be around people who have the same goals as you do.
Yeah.
So and like he'll be like, hey, I'm going to this practice. I'll be like, okay. And I'll be like, maybe I wasn't gonna go to that practice. But I'm like, I gotta go now.
Yeah.
So like, so he's awesome, man.
Well, and I think the recurring theme here is that all the people that you've built around you in this team have a very close personal relationship with you. It's not just a professional relationship. They have a personal connection with you.
Definitely, man. I think a small circle is important. Too many ears telling you what to do. Like for example, like all the coaches on elevation. I'm sure there's something I can take from all of them, but that's a lot of people.
It's different styles.
Exactly.
I mean, you even. I spent a little bit of time in Thailand, just about a month, and you have to figure that out too. They have tons of coaches that are very smart, but I mean, you have to figure out who you're clicking with, who understands your style, who works well with your style, and then once you've honed that in, your head coach, once you found someone like J-Ho that connects with you on a personal level, that's where you really see the gains and the benefit and the skill improvement.
Exactly, man. Like when I'm in there, like Jay, he's always like he's never. I don't have to approach Jay and ask for things. He'll come and he's like, hey, are you good? Do you need anything? Do you want to get these mitts in?
That's great.
Do you want? And that's important to me, man.
Yeah.
And,
support at home and in the gym.
And he's like, just put the work in. Like, all you got to do is show up, man. That's what I believe. So, for example, like Monday, I went to his cardio kickboxing class. Like I said, where all the soccer moms go. But I was like, that's work, so I went there. So, yeah, man, I don't know. For me, it's just if I can, like I said, there's something you can learn from everybody. Man.
Yeah.
But he's definitely right now, he's the driving force for where I want to be. So,
Nice. So kind of take me back then. Tell me about how you got here. So you said you started at 17. You had your first amateur fight, and then you ended up going to the military. So take me back to kind of that first fight. How did you even decide that you wanted to fight?
Oh, man. So I remember at the time, my brother had it was like a DVD of like UFC tapes or whatever, and I think it was 14 or 15 at the time. And Benson Henderson versus Frankie Edgar 2. Yeah. And I was like, this is crazy. I was like, this is legal? Like what they're doing? It's crazy. I remember he dropped him with an up kick, man. And I was like, this is crazy. Like, I got to do this. You know what I'm saying? I was like, where can I learn? So I bought like a pair of UFC gloves from like Dick's Sporting Goods.
How old are you at this time, you think?
It's like 14.
Okay.
Yeah. And I was like hitting the bag at the gym, the local gym I was at, and it wasn't even MMA. It was like it's just a regular fitness gym, but
Right.
they just had a punching bag, man.
Right.
So I was punching it with the 4-ounce gloves, and I just had dreams of like being like, I was like, I gotta be in the UFC, man. And then I remember walking home one day. There was a gas station up the street, and I would always go up there for whatever. And then right across the street, there was a Taekwondo and Krav Maga Academy. And then I remember I walked through the doors, and this man, his name is Daniel Longoria. He's now that guy. He's the first person who ever showed me how to throw a punch.
Cool.
He was like, it was a sparring day, and he was like, hey, he's like, oh, you want to sign up for Taekwondo? And I was like, no. I was like, MMA, like for sure. And he's like, okay. And he's like, sign him up. So I remember he signed me up, and then I was like, how much is it? Like, it's like $80 a month. And I was like, okay. I had a job, I wasn't making any money. I was like, okay, cool. And he's like, you want to try a class out? So I tried the class out. At the time, man, there was pros in there. There was a guy, his name was Miles Marshall.
Okay.
And then who else was there? There was a few people there. But like that was one of the gyms. Like, I don't know if you know who Mirsad Bektik is.
Yes.
He trained out of there for a while. Back
monster.
back on the scene, man. Like back in the day. This was like when Drew Dober was fighting locally in Nebraska.
Cool.
And I was like, okay. So I went back and I tried to tell my dad. My dad's a real blue collar, hardworking guy, man. He was like, okay. He's like, we can get you signed up or whatever. He's like, but you got to go get a job to pay for it.
Cool.
So I remember I rode my bike to at the time it was called Hy-Vee, was the grocery place, and I was bagging groceries. I just made enough to pay for the month of training, man. And I was
Nice.
there, and I remember I took my first fight at 17, and so this is back before like elbows and knees and everything were like completely legal,
Right.
man. And they still are in Nebraska, I think. But I remember I was like, this is real. I went to my first MMA event, like it was like a couple months before. And I was like, whoa, this is crazy.
It's
like,
a different feel at local cards, even in
crazy.
UFC. You feel
I
that
saw
emotion.
a guy get knocked out cold, man.
And
I
you're
was
right
like-
there.
I was like, this is nuts, man. And at this time, I'd already been training for like 3 years. I was feeling good about myself.
Yeah.
And I remember went in there, man.
So you hadn't fought yet, but you trained for 3 years.
Yeah, correct.
Cool.
Yeah,
All right.
because you had to be 17 to fight.
Ah.
That was kind of the catch thing. So I was like, okay. So I remember it was October 2014, and went in there and I like had my first fight. Nothing like the adrenaline of a first fight, man. And like I was like, I gotta do this again, man. So kept fighting, and then when I turned 18, I was like, well, I'm not making any money. I was like, so what should I do? And my dad was like, kind of thinking, well, you know, is this gonna work for you? Because I think my third fight I lost via rear naked choke or whatever, and it was the Pinnacle Bank Arena. I remember I was like super like, it was pretty embarrassing for me, man.
Yeah.
I had all my family there, and they're like, "Oh, you sure this is what you want to do?" I mean, it was kind of back and forth, but it was like second round, man. He wrapped me up, rear naked choke. I tapped, it was over.
Yeah.
And I was like, man, I don't even know if I want to do this anymore.
Right.
I was like, I'm gonna join the Army. So I remember I joined the Army. MMA was a thing of the past for me, but I remember watching the cards. Like, still, like I was still a UFC fan, still a fan of this thing. And I was like, man, I gotta get back in there, man. And then I started training again. Found a local gym. At the time, it was American Top Team up there. It was an affiliate gym, but then I kind of started training there a little bit. Didn't take any fights yet.
Because you're stationed in New York?
Correct, yeah.
Okay.
Man. The military stationed me up there in way upstate New York.
Cool.
And so I was like, all right, cool. I was training. Then I remember I had one of my soldiers, like I said, he boxed. And he got me into kind of like the boxing fold. And I did that for a good 2 years, man, just boxing. And I was taking MMA fights too and boxing fights,
Nice.
but with just boxing.
I see.
And next thing I knew, I was like on a 4-fight win streak, and I was like, "This is all right. Like, I guess this is what I'm doing." And I remember my contract came to an end in the military. My wife was still in the military at the time, and she still had some time on her contract. And like, so I was like, "All right, cool." I was like, "I guess I could get a job as a server." Still trained. I think they only had like one MMA class a day, though.
Okay.
So I was only training once a
Sure.
day. But I remember went up there, fought for Triton fights a couple times, and then when
Nice.
her time in the military came to an end, I was like, what now? I was like, oh. So I looked like a list of gyms that I could go to.
Yeah.
And I looked at the gyms with the winning records.
All
Because
right.
that means that like it's not even a fighter thing, it's a coach thing.
Yeah.
If like everyone on that team is winning, Factory X was my first thing I was gonna go to. I was like, all right, it's gonna be Factory X. And then I was like, I noticed they're a great gym, but I noticed their win to loss ratio, they were losing more than their team was winning. And I looked over at Elevation and they're winning all the time.
Yeah.
And I was like, I gotta go there.
Cool.
So I remember I walked the doors and that was it, man. So yeah.
And so now you are 5-3 and heading into. So you actually already, just for context again, you already
Yeah.
do have a title, an amateur title.
Correct. Yeah, man. I'm a full Well, I was the full contact promotions title. I gave
Cool.
it up because obviously I moved. But yeah, man.
Cool. So now you've moved to Colorado with a new couple teams, getting lots of looks. You feel like you're the best you've ever been, and you're going into this title fight on December 14th against this Bang Muay Thai guy. So I mean, overall, kind of, you mentioned the trajectory of your career has gotten you here, and you plan to go pro next. But what is the thought process overall of, I'm ready to go pro, or is it, you just are tired of fighting and not getting paid? I mean, what is that?
Kind of both. For me, if I'm training with pros every day, why would I not be one? But another thing like I said, I took a year off because, I'm 23. So,
Mhm.
I don't want to. I've seen guys who are young go pro. They did great in their amateur career, but then they just, got destroyed.
Yeah.
One of my better examples is, Darren Till, for example. Young guy, hot, on the MMA scene. Everyone, wants to be like him. And then he just started losing. I was like, I don't want to go prematurely. So, but now I'm feeling like it may even be after this fight. It may even be a little longer till I fight again.
Sure.
But I think it's definitely time to go pro. And it's also really hard for me to find a fight, man.
Yeah.
This is the third time. So between the cards I was supposed to have been on, it was either going to be Markel Medeiros from Factory X or this guy from obviously Bang Muay Thai, and it was those are the only two names that keep cycling through. I was I think I need to go pro just for the lack of opponents.
Cool.
So
cool.
Yeah.
So going pro after this, and then overall, I mean, what are your goals in MMA?
For me, man, I want to make a living at this.
Cool.
UFC is obviously the pinnacle, right? That's where everyone wants to be. But I mean, if Bellator were to sign me, or ONE FC, or even PFL, yeah, those guys are making money. It's a sustainable living.
Lance Palmer might make another $1 million.
That's what I'm saying, man. When I read that, even the Bellator tournament is for $1 million.
Yeah, featherweight.
Yeah, that's crazy to me. I'm like, that's money that I've you dream about that type of money, and to know that I can get it from MMA.
Right.
I was like, oh yeah,
that's cool.
So I mean, I'd sign with anybody, but I'm just gonna keep grinding. I think the thing you gotta win. You just gotta keep winning, and then you'll get noticed.
So how's that changed? I mean, what was your goal when you first started out in MMA?
Oh, it had to be UFC, man.
Yeah.
But at the time, UFC was really the only thing that was
True.
big at the time. I never heard of PFL, ONE FC. Bellator was there, but it was kind of the B promotion, if you will.
Sure. Yeah.
But
Strike
now,
Force, yeah.
exactly. But now you're looking at the fighters from Bellator and those things and those guys are you have former Rory McDonald, former UFC,
right.
Those guys
absolutely
doing well.
Good. Yeah.
And there are guys in my opinion in Bellator who could beat the guys in the UFC too.
Mm-hmm.
So for me it's if I can make a living doing it, then I'm gonna do it. I'll
awesome.
sign with whoever, man. I'm not I know a lot of people their mind is UFC or nothing, but for me it's dude, you want to fight the best, man, right? So I don't know. Wherever the best are, that's where I want to be.
Yeah.
So
cool. I like it. So think back to the beginning of your career. You're 8 fights into your amateur career now, about to go pro after this fight, which will be fight number 9, a shot at a second title for you. If you had to think back to the beginning of your career and, you could provide advice to someone just starting out that wants to be a fighter, I mean, what would it be? What advice would you give them?
Show up. Don't be afraid to do the things you don't want to do. Not doing jiu-jitsu for me, maybe you like jiu-jitsu and you don't want to do striking.
Right.
You got to do it all, man, and especially when you're a young fighter, because that's when you're fully developing, and then you can find what you like and spend more time on it, man. But the thing is sticking with it, man. There have been people on my journey who had so much potential, but then they didn't want to go to practices. They started getting involved in other things. So for me, this is it, man. You gotta if you want something, just go get it, man. But you gotta show up. If you show up and put the work in, man, the results are gonna come. 100%.
That's great advice.
Man.
Cool.
So.
Well, man, I'm excited for you to fight December 14th for the title on Sparta, 165 pounds. I appreciate you coming on. And before I let you go, can you tell people how they can follow you online?
Yeah, man. So you can follow me at Instagram would be CalebHall_MMA. Twitter would be CalebHA11. And then Facebook, Caleb Hall.
Awesome. Go follow him. Check us out at Prize Fight Biz. Thanks for watching.
All right.
Cool, man.
Thanks.